Okay, good afternoon po. I'm Tats. I'm an intern at SALT Institute. Welcome to day one of the ADL Learning Exchange 2021. So for the first session in this room, we have Ma'am Marites Veloso, who is an instructor at the Ateneo de Manila LS, and they will be telling us about how to coach students online. So, ma'am, the floor is yours na po.
Okay. Thank you, Tats. Hi, good afternoon. Before I start with my sharing on my ADL experiences, I would like you to read the following messages and notifications from my LMS or my Canvas. Hi, I am Tess Veloso. I will be sharing with you my ADL experiences as a teacher, thesis advisor, and as a coach in this online learning situation that we are in. I work full-time as the testing and research director of the Ateneo Junior High School and also at the Ateneo Senior High School. And my favorite role now is being a part-time lecturer and a thesis advisor in the Curriculum, Pedagogy, and Assessment Department of the Gokongwei Brothers School of Education and Learning Design. I am a guidance counselor and a psychologist by heart. I was given three questions for this sharing. First, what is the context? Second, how did I do it? And third, what did I learn? So let me begin. What was the context? Why did I decide to do this practice coaching students online? I was given the mission to teach and to guide graduate school students who have been in their nth number of years in the graduate school. These students have received moratoriums from the graduate school dean, and they have a lot of concerns, like they can no longer know how to manage their time, that is balancing their work and their studies in this pandemic. Some are having relationship problems. Some are experiencing depression. Some have problems with security in their jobs, and some got the COVID-19 virus. How did I do it? First, context. As a coach, it is important to know the context of the student. And when we talk about context, we begin by knowing the student. What is his learning style? What is his personality type? What does he like to do during his spare time? What are some of the strengths and weaknesses that you notice about him? What makes him smile? What are the reasons why he's not doing what he's supposed to do? These are just some of the questions that knowing the answer to will help you in your role as a coach and a teacher. Second, set boundaries. There are times that a thesis advisee and a distressed student consults with me, then he starts to cry and pour out all his problems and concerns. If this is always the scenario every time we meet, then we will not be able to finish our goal. As a coach, it is important to define your role. I tell my student, I am your teacher this time. I will coach you on how to finish your thesis or submit a copy of your thesis, and I will assist you in completing your task. I am not your counselor this time, but I can refer you to a counselor, and of course, assuring her or he that confidentiality will be observed. Another practice that I do is I set time. During this time and day, we will work together as an advisor and advisee, or as a coach and a student. Another practice that help, giving directions. Example, for today, we will try to learn the concept of this theory. And on Tuesday, our next meeting, we will build your conceptual framework. Third, identify goals and priorities. In coaching our student, we need to have a purpose. Ask yourself, what is it that I really want to see as a result? What will tell what will tell me that this session is worthwhile? Hindi puro chikahan lang. Have a purpose, have a reason for the coaching session to go ahead. Gusto ko matapos mo yung course na ito, ma-defend mo ang thesis mo. And in doing this, it might need some planning time. Be prepared, and the coachee or the student will need some time to prepare too. Keep it simple. The more we load our student or advisee, the less likely that they are to complete any of it. Example, oh, you were given a moratorium, so you need to finish chapters 1 to 5 in 3 months. This is impossible. Give the focus on one or two things that can give impact in the student's performance. If you will not submit your paper on the deadline we set, we cannot meet the deadline set by the OADGP or the graduate school dean. Or if you will not participate in the discussion board for this module, you will have a difficult time understanding the next modules. As a coach, ensure that your instructions are specific, direct, and not vague. Fourth, facilitate and collaborate. Being a coach is not just being a cheerleader. Yes, it is important to encourage our students, but do not forget that there are certain priorities that should take place. Although, you may suggest several options for responding to a problem, but the ultimate choice should rest with the student, with you acting as facilitator or collaborator. Fifth, advocate self-awareness. Have your student recognize his strong points, like, can he write well? Is he good in analyzing graphs or good in maths or statistics? And what could be his weaknesses? Are there too much in his plates, or is he having difficulty managing his time? Use their strengths in motivating them. Example, you can tell him, I am impressed with how you wrote the introduction of your paper. And if he is weak in managing time, set submission dates. We should also know that our behavior can impact our student. Just like the author Parker Palmer said, we teach who we are. Six, flexibility. As a coach, we need to have several tools in our toolkit of ways to effectively coach and give feedback. As I mentioned earlier, each of our students have unique concerns, personalities, moods, and attitudes. Recognize the problems in advance and adjust accordingly. Example, he got sick or a member of the family had COVID. This might disrupt his rhythm, his learning styles, and his disposition. Seven, provide follow-up to whatever degree necessary to ensure sustainability. We should follow up, set time for updates. I usually ask, what percentage of the work I assigned you is finished? Give the date and time for your online meeting for him to give status on his task, homework, or thesis. It would be nice to call it kumustahan so that it will not be intimidating. Because if we message him or tell him, I want to meet you online, this might bring some anxiety to the student. And eighth, be there, be present. Do not multitask when talking to your students or coachee. Give your full attention to them. See your students. At the very least, it is common courtesy to be fully engaged when we talk or coach our students. What did I learn from this experience? Please allow me to share with you what I learned as a coach, as a teacher, and my ADL experience in general. It is okay to commit mistakes and to keep trying. Start by being reasonable with yourself. Online learning is not just your problem, it is a global concern. All of us are new on this online or distance learning environment, and it is impossible to shift to this without lots of trial and error. Isn't it that at first we were not familiar with the buttons of Zoom or Gmeet? Now we're more expert into this, and we were not then familiar to make how to make breakout rooms for our students. Let's give time let's give time to ourselves to figure things out. Acknowledge the extraordinary. Reset your baseline since the global pandemic is real. The global pandemic is disorienting and limiting. Having business as usual is unrealistic. The tasks that you could usually and easily do pre-pandemic have undergone changes. We should give ourselves the time and the permission to figure this out. Please mind the gap. Online teaching is hard, but there are students facing more severe challenges. Technology and gadget are just some of their concern. They may have the gadget for online learning, but what about internet connectivity? Do they have safe spaces at home or even a working space at home? How about their physical and emotional health? Maybe their parents just lost their jobs or source of income, or the students themselves lost their jobs if they are a working student. Let us model what we teach or coach. If we want our students to be systematic and organized, you should be like that too and remain calm. Be consistent, and of course, we also model integrity as a coach. Because I am a thesis advisor and we always end our thesis with a recommendation, I would like to share some with you. If you want to add to these recommendations, you are most welcome. So, what are some of my recommendations? Remember that this is not about you, but the mission we are given as a teacher or as a coach. Primarily, know the student's personal challenges. Does he have access to resources? This pandemic has taught us to reach out to people. Reach out to people who can help or monitor our students, like their friends or their families. For my case, as part of the CPA, I update my department chair on the status and concerns of my students. Practice cura personalis. Let us show care and concern for each student. Listen to them. Notice the HEART in the slide. Let us listen and provide feedback with the heart. As we have been doing pre-pandemic or offline, let us continue doing our best even online. And I want to end this sharing from last Sunday's homily as Father Francis Alvarez SJ said, Our goal is not to be successful, but to be faithful in this mission entrusted to us. And with that, I thank you and good afternoon.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Marites Veloso, for that presentation. So, the next half of the session po will be dedicated for a Q&A session. So, for anyone with a question, feel free to unmute yourself or type your question in the chat box and I'll read it out for you.
Miss Vivian? Yes, Miss Vivian. Okay. There's a question here from Miss Pauline. Mom, how do you know if the student is not just making an excuse? Okay. So that's a very common problem right now, no, with this online learning. Okay. You, as what I've said, you should know the context of our students. You would know naman if he's really making an excuse or not, right? So please know the context of our students. And if he does this once, maybe uh, we can forego with that. But if he's always making an excuse, then it's a time that we should do other things, consult other friends or or other teacher if he's doing that also in other subjects. Okay. So, uh, Tats, please help me with the chat box.
Okay po, I'll read the questions out na lang po for you.
Sige, sige, please, Tats.
So the second question po is, if the student does not want to be referred to a counselor, what do you do?
Let's respect that. If he does not need to be referred to any counselor, let's respect that. We cannot force a student to go to a counseling session. Okay, but please define your role first as a as a coach. But please encourage also the student that the counselor can help him with the problem, with his problem or concerns.
Okay po, third question, how many students do you coach and how do you manage your time coaching groups of students?
Okay. As a thesis advisor for this SAM, I have four students, four thesis advisees. And in my class right now, because I also teach guidance and counseling subjects, I have 10 students. Now, what's the follow-up question, Tats? Sorry, Tats?
The follow-up question po is, how do you manage your time coaching groups of students?
Yeah. I really set time for them. I calendar, I put schedule on what time they can meet them. And my students know that we have a consultation time that they can see me during this time. Because like anyone else here in this room, we also have other jobs to do, right?
Okay po, may nag-raise po ng hand. So, pwede po kayong mag-unmute to ask your question.
Okay, Sir Jude,
Hi,
I think. Sir Jude,
hi, good afternoon, Miss Marites.
good afternoon.
If I heard your sharing correctly, you also coach thesis students
Yes, sir.
who are actually parang sort of on the brink of extending na the deadline set by OADGP. So
Yes,
my
sir.
question, Ma'am Tess, is, for example, this student in your point of view is not as hardworking or is not as productive so that this person could meet that deadline, how do you actually motivate that thesis advising?
As I mentioned a while ago, we set goals. Like for example, when this student was introduced to me by our department chair, we set goals. And I asked him, do you really want to finish your thesis? Do you really want to finish your course? And then we will discuss and we will uh, make schedules regarding his goal. So we have to be serious in meeting his goal.
Thank you, ma'am.
And then, of course, I mentioned also a while ago, Sir Jude, that it is also always important to know his strengths and weaknesses and motivate him based on his on his strengths. Like for example, you're a very good writer. Okay, so you speak well, so you can do everything that you can do using your talents or your skills. And then whatever his weaknesses are, like for example, most of their weaknesses are managing their time kasi. So I set calendars for them, deadlines for them that they should meet these deadlines set for them.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you too.
Okay, so next question po ma'am sa chat box. What advice could you give for class projects? They are learning the tools as the sem goes on and as they are writing the paper. I guess it is different from a thesis wherein it might be assumed that all the skills or tools have been learned already.
Okay. Coaching students for class projects. Okay. Ask also yourself as a teacher, are the projects given to students realistic? Are the deadlines to set also realistic? Remember, we are in the pandemic right now. So be more realistic also in setting your goals, your uh, tasks for your students.
Okay, so next question po. How do we apply these tips in a class of 25 to 34 students?
Okay. Please choose among the tips that I gave you which one works for a group of uh, for a group of 25 to 34 students. Okay. Um, there are tips that can work to one, or tips that can work to a lot of students. But the best tip that I can give you is be present, be with your student.
Okay, meron pa pong may question. Please feel free to raise your hand po or put your questions in the chat box.
We answered already.
Meron pa tayong 8-ish minutes.
I also want to pick up what Tina Alfonso have said here that since we are in the pandemic, we always err on the compassion side. Okay, thank you, Tina, for that.
May questions pa po. Feel free po to raise your hand. Ikaw po ma'am, may iba ka pa po bang gusto i-share?
Yung presentation ko is real, yan yung mga totoong experiences that I have. Uh, Sana nakapulutan nila ng aral. And I also want, if there are people here in this group or in this session that would want to share some tips that have worked for them, then maybe we can also ask them if there are some who would want to add more on the tips.
Ayan pa, may isa pa pong question. So how do you balance po daw yung academic rigor with compassion?
Okay. Academic rigor is really different from compassion. Okay, that's why I told you a while ago. I have to define my role. I am a guidance counselor, a psychologist by profession, but I am your teacher. So we have to finish this this goal of finishing, and you have to work hard. You have to maximize all your talent and potentials. And then, uh, if you have time, then you could always help your student, listen to them, or be with them, or as I what told you a while ago, it's always good to refer to a counselor or to someone who could help your student. Okay. Uh, Being compassionate also is not always listening to them without finishing all their goals or what they are supposed to do. Okay, so that's not being compassionate. Okay.
Okay, another question po is, how would you coach a student who may be falling behind group projects and possibly avoid affecting the performance and emotions of the rest of the group?
Please talk to that student. Why is he failing behind the other students? Why he's not joining the group? I'm very sure there are reasons why it's like that. And also, as also the group, what has happened, what's happening, or like I'm sure if this is the group is his friends or classmates, they are also willing to share and to be more accommodating and help with the student.
Okay po, next question po. Have you encountered a student who is unprepared for a coaching session? For example, a deliverable you both agreed upon to talk about, but at the end the student was not able to come up with a deliverable. How do you handle it?
Ay, yes, oo. Actually, madalas mangyari yan. But then, just like what I said, I give directions. I tell he and ask him questions. What happened? So if this is the output for today, hindi natin matatapos yung goal mo. Let's go back to your goal. Okay, so uh, for a few minutes, I let him explain. And then, I asked him, so anong gagawin natin ngayon? Kasi kailangan manggaling sa kanya yung gagawin niya eh. And then, sabihin mo, okay, sinabi mo yan, gagawin natin yan at aasahan ko yan. So, sana responsible din sila sa actions nila. Thank you to Mr. Mark Anthony.
Okay, meron pa po bang ibang question? I think we can accommodate one more. May 2 minutes pa po tayo. Okay, so since walang nag-erase, ako na lang po magtatanong. May is curious rin po ako about something as a student. Um, paano po kung para sa akin po kasi minsan ayoko pong nare-refer rin minsan sa counselor, and of course I wouldn't like na uh, they would reach out to like my friend or my family rin. So um ano pong ibang ginagawa nyo like about that? What's something that you can do to help that certain person?
Okay. Answer you wearing my two hats as a teacher. So, ang sasagutin ko as a teacher is more on finishing your goal. But as a counselor, I will explain to you the value of talking to a professional, someone who's licensed to do counseling, and the value of talking out your problems to other to guidance counselor or psychologist.
Okay, thank you po. So ayun, 1 minute na lang. I think we can end na po the session. So again, thank you very much po, Ma'am Veloso, for your sharing. And thank you also to everyone else who attended this session. Feel free na po to move on to your next session, or you can also stay in the room po if this is the room for your next session as well. So yan, thank you po everyone, and of course Ma'am Veloso.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
very much.
ma'am.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.